Hello to everybody watching, listening, and once more welcome back to Mechabellum. Playing with some heavy armor specialists with sledgehammers and marksmen, and having some crawlers probably at my disposal. My opponent, very similar, he is cost control with crawler sledgehammer, and probably will add some marksmen if I had to guess. He could even add phoenixes, if he wanted to. Let's just zoom through the first round. Okay, he goes for marksman, and I bet I'm going for crawlers. Yeah. So, this player, the first few... Oh, the round is starting. The first few characters don't really have any sense that I am aware of, but this is, I think it means harmony. I put it into a translator, and harmony is what came out. Although different translators gave different results, so... who knows? Anyhow, it is basically the age-old question that I think comes mostly down to unit positioning. Who wins? More marksmen or more sledgehammers? I think in this specific case, more marksmen is actually better than more sledgehammers, because I am breaking through on one side, and even on the other side, one additional marksman survives, one more than would have been necessary. Round number 2, mass-produced phoenixes an option, strike specialist, deployment module, or extended war factory. Nothing all too great. My opponent is going for some phoenixes, as he has picked mass-produced phoenixes. And we will see what else happens in this match, but I didn't make a note here. That is actually strange. I think this was a mass sledge game. In any case, my opponent has phoenixes here, which is pretty decent against these sledgehammers. Let me just explain something about mass sledging. So I bought additional chaff. I was just tapped out seeing what I noted or wrote down to this match, and surprise, I didn't write down anything other than the name and verses and that sort of stuff. In any case, I'm really interested to see what happens in this match, but I think this was a sledgehammer match. I think mass sledgehammer, before it was kind of the age of the scorpion, if that makes sense, everyone. Scorpions were really good, they were really amazing. They could basically blast every ground unit in existence. And now they only have negligible more range than just base sledgehammers. And while there is extended range sledgehammers, there is not extended range scorpions. You have to go into siege mode. But siege mode was also hit with the nerf hammer. I really think they hit the scorpion too hard with the nerf hammer. But I could be wrong. In any case, Fortress, Mustang, both good against Phoenixes. I go for the Fortress. My opponent does go for the Mustangs. So what ends up happening here? I still have 550 in the bank. My opponent has less money, which is he added on more phoenixes. Kinda brave when both Mustangs and Fortresses come out in the same round. I do drop an additional marksman, and I think the rest is going into double sledgehammers with mass recruitment. Yeah. Otherwise, I would be running into some chaff clearing problems. So I have a good setup, I think, at this moment. And I think my opponent also has a good setup. I'm not necessarily sure that the Mustangs so close here are a good idea. If they ever become absolute carry Mustangs, I think they are very vulnerable to being taken out in the flank. I can imagine going for some exploding rhino action there and just taking them out. I was also, well, I shouldn't have been surprised, but I think I still was surprised by my opponent picking up more phoenixes. This is liable to just get into the bad situation where I have no more anti-air and thus will be cleaned up. Now there is a bunch more units out, and these phoenixes don't do enough damage to really contest a whole lot. I think that is actually the round where nothing really is being taken out. So maybe I will take the time and explain. I have explained it before, but I will just explain why I think that Scorpions are no longer a counter to Sledgehammers. And that is basically based off a single tag, which is EMP on the Sledgehammers. You can go Mass Sledge, and if the opponent drops a sufficient amount of Scorpions to deal with your Sledgehammers, you will have a massive chaff clear advantage over your opponent in many cases. And if you then have EMP on your Sledges as well, what you can do is, what will happen is, you will just EMP with extended range, with range tech and EMP on the Sledgehammers. You will just take the opponent's the opponent's Scorpions entirely out of the picture. They stand no more chance because they are super slow, they have less range, and they need to move in. And if you then, if the match goes on long enough, also hit armor-piercing bullets, they will also lose, because at that point, leveled Sledges with all of these tags can do some pretty decent DPS, let me tell you that much. They can legitimately start killing fortresses, if things go well. If you don't manage to clear the chaff efficiently enough, or if the opponent goes into Sledges better than you do, it starts being pretty mediocre. So right now my Sledges are in front of the fortresses, which means they are being killed. Fortress is kind of moving in on these, on the Mustangs, come on. And it's looking pretty much like the last round. No more anti-air for me. And this time my opponent does have a good amount of DPS that can absolutely take care of this fortress. What are these? They have the advanced firepower control. I was kind of hoping that this side would survive, but the advanced firepower control was just king here. Pretty high level chaff and also high quantity chaff coming out. No one has dropped fangs so far. My opponent goes for the Sabertooth. Perfectly reasonable choice. I do as well. And I think we both just sell it. Yeah. Your opponent is going into range on Melters. I still have my improved firepower control. And haven't used it so far. Now these are now level 4 Mustangs that are doing 8 Mustang levels worth of damage. Last round alone they were doing almost 134,000 damage. And that was the lion's share of what they have done so far, simply because they shoot through basically 3 fortress levels. Not alone, but still. I think I dropped some crawlers in the front, simply so that I can distract my opponent's Stormcallers. I would kind of be expecting him to drop more. He now has a tech in it. I'm not sure if that is new. But that kind of binds him to this unit now. I end up buying out and getting more fortresses. I have not yet seen my opponent go into melting points. At this point, I think my plan is kind of Sledge, Marksman, Fortress. And for the moment, Mech Rage comes down. I didn't have money for these tanks to level up. Now with Mech Rage, they pull ahead of the fortresses even harder, but at the moment 4 fortresses I think are more of a carry than 4 Sledges. Right now, I'm not sure these melting points are good. They're getting decent amounts of level progress off these tanks, that is for sure. But they haven't hit anything valuable right now. Finally, the first one is locking on to a fortress, as the other fortress actually goes down more quickly because of the Mustangs. And does this end up being the same as last round? I think not. Probably similar. The melting point is capable of wiping out these fortresses. It has an extended range. Or increased range. Range enhancement, that is the name. Advanced firepower control and laser sights. My opponent picks the laser sights. Even heavy armor isn't all that bad. I pick laser sights as well. And I think I start selling off the fortresses. The fortress plan has gone out of the window because of the melters. It is officially time to sledge it out to the max. This game, by the way, was also from a stream, if I'm not mistaken. I have been streaming, mostly on Sundays, I think. And honestly, the last stream was really awesome. If you're watching this within the time limit of, what's it called, of Twitch, you can actually check that stream out. And there was a really good amount of really fun games in there, let me tell you. Since the carry Mustangs are on this side, I do end up putting items on the sledges here. And so that my marksmen can deal with the melters, I end up dropping elite here, so they do more damage. Right now I really want the sledges to run in before the fortresses. I'm not sure if I was actively realizing that at the time, but it's definitely the correct choice right now. Otherwise these fortresses will just get locked onto and die. Ultimately, I want to end up with 0 fortresses. I'm very glad I wasn't baited by the phoenixes to go into anti-attack and instead relied on the marksmen. Because with the amount of chaff clear my opponent has here, I really didn't want to go and try to win the chaff war so I can use fortresses in this match. That marksman is going to have a grand old time as long as it stays alive. All the air units have gone down, and there's a very decent amount of sledges still moving in that will tank the melter. But not good enough. Mustang melter is right now basically my opponent's unit composition. And I guess some Stormcallers and tanks as support along of course with chaff. Even has the range here. That is cool. Did he pick anything? I think he picked the top supply at round 7. I think that's too greedy. I picked the haste module and put it on these sledges. So these are now as fast as base crawlers at 60 meters per second. I am hitting the range button now because I think at this point the sledges are more for carry than the fortresses. Well, I'm not sure I hit it because of that, but that is right now, I think, true. I still have a lot of money left over as well. And I'm pretty sure I just invested into more sledges. To really justify having 2 upgrades on these. Yeah. Elite comes out and a lot more sledges come down. More on this side and all the items on this side simply to deal with these carry Mustangs. They are a thorn in my side. But enough sledge should eventually just counter it, no? At least that's what I'm thinking. I also end up going for a temp range, simply to use some of the leftover money. I think in round 7 it's starting to really be worth it. Now the sledges do fire away. My opponent doesn't have all that much in the way of sledge power. I have many more. The Phoenixes are actually some of the furthest up units, so they are kind of way too expensive chaff against my marksmen. The marksmen are now basically at the same range as these. No, they are actually outranged by these sledges since they have the item. It ends up being quite a stomp in this round for me, which is putting me a good amount ahead on the damage meter. And there's just too much tank.